known for. That's the interesting thing, and if they dedicate to this, let's have a look. Yeah, it's back to what they tried to run on Haven. And we're going to tactical pause so we can talk about this a little bit more. Actually, never mind. We're sort of counting in, at least. But they are dedicated to this composition that they ran on Haven and lost with, so that's a very big question mark, and with any luck, it pays off for them.
This is so aggressive. Just running straight into mid. This is a brawl. It's almost like they've got their gloves out to fight for this one. I don't think I've ever seen a pistol round like this across most games, let alone within Valorant. But it does mean Kaplan has managed to gain some space. He can close the shutters, look to try and get that spike down. They are still with a man disadvantage, as we will see the rotation coming all the way back through. One still stuck behind the shutters, and while the others wrapping around through the rafters of B. Some relatively strong after plant positions. Insky going to be utilizing the dark cover to at least give them some space, but Subroza catching Leak actually gives them some more around the back of the site. They clear Cutler very quickly indeed, though, and going to start tapping on the defusal. They're watching for Subroza, and I think they know exactly where that last man is going to be. Good luck to Drone. He at least gets himself one, but it is a strong retake coming out from Bloom, and more importantly, their first pistol.
They could start off on a better spot than they did on Split, which might have TSM already going, oh no, this is not good, but it is a pistol round. A lot can change. I would be an idiot if I called this game this early, but an exceptional start from sSef, who has been exceptional this whole series. A nice triple kill for him. And yeah, I think their W key had something stuck underneath it, Tom, because they just kept running and running and running into TSM, and with this composition, it's a little more question marky, I suppose. Hazed over to the Omen. No Sage. And another great pick for sSef.
Yeah, for a Cypher, he's pretty damn aggressive. He's wanting to take these fights all day long. They are going to be given away by the recon bolt. Roca somewhat being left behind, but he likes to be in these sort of stances. However, Drone has managed to get a kill. Now, luckily for the side of Bloom, Roca had no weapon, or none other than the Ghost that he'd purchased. So it's not really a massive loss for them. We can see on the other side of things, there's not a whole lot of weaponry to play behind. However, there is going to be a long rotation all the way back. But with the cam currently waiting, he's going to be checking to see if there's anybody around this corner. They can get relatively close before anybody on the side of Bloom will know.
Bloom seemed prepared for it, though. Still time on the clock, but this is going to be an execute. The smoke comes in a bit delayed, but enough to make it really awkward, and it allows Lee to get a nice little peek in. Door's going to be shut in his face, though. Insky dedicated to Paranoia is inside the cyber cage, so might just be able to bait them out a little bit. They might not be expecting him to have such a wide berth when it comes to this peak. He spotted Wardell, who just wasn't looking. He was just staring into space a little bit, trying to spot something out. And Insky, at the same time as sSef, able to get the spray in. It was a good execution from TSM, considering the guns that they had available, but the advantage was there for Bloom, and they most certainly took it.
Yeah, they will convert themselves. Of course, not a whole lot invested into that round for TSM, so they're not taking the same sort of risks we've seen from Bloom, which is something I've really enjoyed about this roster. Is, again, we spoke about it. I think they know going into this they're heavy underdogs. It would be a massive upset, maybe even the biggest of the tournament if they were to lose. I don't know what could top this, but realistically, they are taking those risks. They're getting in the faces of their opponents, and they're going for a buy that we used to see quite regularly in Counter-Strike. When you have this sort of riskier purchase, those SMGs kept from the previous round, you get that operator. You get that sniper in play to give you an advantage, which may not necessarily be on the other side.
Bit of a bonus round, too, with the SMGs. If they lose them, they can still buy fully next round. Leak, ooh, does get hit quite a lot, but the wall saves him from taking mortal damage at least. Not quite lethal. Leak is forced to play back a little bit more passively, and this is a bit of space that TSM are able to take. And it's good discipline from Bloom, who are really just playing a bit passively, backing off, giving quite a lot of space for TSM. Looking relatively comfortable to go for a retake if necessary. But this is a lot of space that TSM now have control of.
Careful now.
Hot hands into the corner is going to clear out one. Leak has found a kill elsewhere, and Subroza thorough with his
Not realised he
chase.
died.
Still 4v4 in this retake, but again, we talk about these after-plant positions. This time, of course, there's weaponry available and drone just waiting for the peak to come back in. All too easy for him and Subroza to make this an almost impossible scenario. They know they need to kill him off, and eventually they will. However, all that really gains is an extra rifle for sSef to escape with, and although TSM are on the hunt, or at least Wardell wanting to pad those stats a little further, probably not going to be lost in this round, and actually an extra weapon will be quite beneficial after the investment that we've seen from the others.
And a really good execute from TSM. Really impressed with how they played that. They used mid to their advantage. They really did force the League to play a lot more passively, really did, you know, sober him up a little bit onto 10 health and took all of that space and ran with it. I do imagine that we're going to be seeing less B executes generally, because B is a very awkward site to push onto. Certainly if there's a Cypher there with all of his kit set up. But I'm certainly curious to see if and when Bloom change up who's playing where. Do they have 3 people stacked towards A? Do they have 2 in mid? It seems likely that they're going to be doing like a 1-2-2 going from left to right. And just changing up where Leak is going to be playing. Doesn't have the Operator this time, but has got the Spectre. It's going to be running into Wardell. It's been a nice 1v1 that we've been seeing throughout the series.
A heavy mid battle straight away. It's sSef with the opener, but the trades come back thick and fast to leave huge advantage. In fact, even going to pop the ultimate, which they're going to know where he is. It doesn't necessarily matter too much. And in fact, Hazed with a trade is more than enough. A trade onto, well, what was a ghost of your teammate really isn't too bad at all. Kaplan, well, we can't expect anything here. The A site fully under the control of TSM. And I am quite surprised, because this is one of the polar opposites I think we're witnessing between the side of NA and EU. Is we talk about the EU defense of this map being very, very passive. Like, you see normally 2 players around in the B site, 1 holding almost in the spawn, and then sort of a flux player, and then 1 dedicated to the A site. This is completely different. This is Bloom rushing into middle to try and fight their opposition. A much more pug style of play, but at the same time, at the moment, it really isn't working. I feel like it's a tough one to try against TSM.
That kind of team, certainly. Like, it's a lot of pressure for Roca, too, on the Reyna to just go in and do something. They tried to stack and aggressively push, but you're right, EU just leaves mid alone. Like, you usually have people holding on to sort of cubby where the trees are. Currently where the Omen defensive Kaplan is sat. Just because that's such a... It's like double doors almost for Haven, but for Ascent. It's such a important part of the map. You start to see it now a little bit of just who's changing up positioning where. It seems that this is going to be very passive when it comes to mid. It is a bit of a half save at least, and a bit of pressure in from Lee. Could just get a kill into Subroza, but Drone is able to trade still. Wardell tries to get the frag, but can't quite. The wall sort of stops him, and Insky has a nice little off angle that's surprising him. So this eco with the Sheriffs, the Shiko, as you will, might actually be quite beneficial for a Bloom here.
I do like how careful TSM are being, though. They're trying to remove the weaponry from play, at least move it back so that realistically it's tougher to be retrieved.
Enemy mark.
And as well is going to spot Butler towards the back at B site, and they are going to rotate into mid once again. It's something that's been a point of contention, and I can understand them playing around this angle for now, because it at least gives them a little bit of range, which sure doesn't make a massive difference with the Sheriff, but with the remainder of the pistols, it gives an inherent advantage over to this side. Of course, no healers available, unless, of course, a kill comes up for Roca, and then he can at least drain himself a little bit of extra health. They've spotted a man in the corner, but there's still another looking to try and hold on. Kaplan also just stopping the push coming in through short. And because of that, it means the Spike's having to go alone, and he's wasting so much time. He goes through a jumping shot onto Cutler. These rounds should never be slipping away from TSM. And while, to be honest, we've seen a few of them now.
Seems to be the phrase that keeps coming up. It's just in any game, if you want to defy the odds and sort of say, okay, we used to win a lot, now we're not winning as much, we need to prove that we're the best team in this region. And I agree with the debate, to put it lightly, the debate that's been going around on who the best team in NA is. More time needs to pass before we really get a good look at this. So TSM have the ability to really become the top team, but these are just games that they should be consistently winning. I get it. Bloom is a team that are playing with nothing to lose. They're fresh-faced. It's very difficult to get real on these guys. And they're playing without absolute fear. You still need to beat them. To be the best, you've got to beat everybody. He's just shooting the sSef, the BM.
Oh, it's not the start that Bloom were wanting for. This was the chance to basically do some real damage to TSM's economy in the last round. Instead, it is an opener, but Leak finds the pick. The Jet in play for him this time and gives him that fast escape. Even the reposition coming in. Paranoia, though, completely blind. There should have been nothing there for Roca, but he still gets a kill. Wardell, however, has found a trade, and okay, insky, he doesn't check. He doesn't realize they've got that far. And while I almost feel bad at this point, the Cypher B defender has been pretty damn good so far. But sSef, oh, he hasn't really had any action. It's been all A.
No, they're not contesting him. Not only because Cypher is so good at anchoring that site buying a lot of time, but also because sSef is pretty nutty with the aim too, being 7-1, so he's having a cracking game. So these A executes, I think, are going to come in relatively frequently. TSM are having a good start, I think, on the attacking side. Granted, the scores are going to be tied when this spike does get deployed. But I think TSM's response from that last round, which was a pretty big disaster for them, I think it's a good one to instantly bounce back and get this round. It was a great push onto the site. Stringing all those kills together, Bloom would show which way to look. That's because TSM could just take all of that space aggressively on a tricky site to take, which is A. But they do it with such style and finesse that really there's not much that Bloom could realistically do in some of the cases.
Now this round at least, it's not an awful position for them to be in. You can see the Roca looking like he might just drop over that operator. Means that Leak will still have that in play. So their economy's not in the dirt just yet. But again, we come up with a pretty crucial round for either side. A chance for Bloom to get themselves back into the lead and potentially build on it. And, well, the same for TSM as they look to try and drive forward in this match.
Immortals beat 100 Thieves, by the way, 2-0. 13-7 was the score of the second map, so a little bit more respectful, but still not a great start. Roca, though, is having an exceptional start. It's a kill just before the doors are shut, but they're instantly blown off by insky. Need to be careful of the operator. Wardell with the Blade Storm is just trying to scout the site, making sure that nobody's going to be tricky and catch them out completely, much like Roca is doing right now. He's still able to get so much done. Subroza holding onto the doorway. Insky, yet again, looking in the opposite direction of where he should be. So Subroza's going to play aggressively, but does get traded eventually by the Omen. Wardell underground, trying to throw out the ultimate, but can't quite get there. He's pinned down by Kaplan. Now it's just up for Clutchler to come in and clutch it.
Yeah, again, we see the power of the Reina Empress. I'm actually surprised Wardell managed to survive as long as he did down there. I mean, it's a corner that you should never be able to escape from. Even still, though, he's had a bit of a slower start to this match, and that's been the one sort of consistent variable so far for TSM. Sure, you've had other players up there with him, like different agents succeeding. Had a great game from Hazed, in fact, in the last, but Wardell was that consistent fragger, and so far he's been a little bit slow. I expect on the defense he's going to be able to get away with a little bit more. I think offensive operator playing is always going to be the tougher of the two. But this would be a time to go missing, but he's going to get that shot. Maybe you speak his name a couple of times, say it 3 times in a mirror, and then he headshots someone through a wall. But nonetheless, there's not much you can really do about that. An opening pick for TSM.
He gets it through the Leer that was used by Roca too. sSef is able to trade up though. Puts Wardell out of the server at least for now. And there's obviously not going to be any resurrects because TSM have opted to not run the Sage. They did that on Haven, and they lost. Not to sort of add a bit of like a connection there, but certainly a team that's having a bit of an identity crisis of what kind of character is going to play. Kaplan doesn't notice him. He's right behind you. He's right there. Subroza just sits in the corner. He's going to use to run it back to scout a bit more intel. Roca's trying to sort of stem the flow a little bit, can only do so much. Insky with the operator tries to get the shot in, but Hazed is just lulling in behind. An explosive TSM.
Oh, that's so perfect from Subroza. He spots the man behind him in the last second. We can say he probably would have been able to make an educated guess, considering sSef has been the B-site player for the majority, if not all of the match. But just the fact that he runs it back straight into that corner.
This is a nice spot.
And has the perfect position to take him out. But yeah, a couple of decent rounds. Still going back and forth all the way, but I think this time is finally the punish. This is where one of these teams has to take an eco round, around with just some pistols. Now, it is worth noting that they did manage to win one of these earlier, but I don't know, Ryan. I really don't think in these sort of circumstances that Lightning will strike twice, especially not with that much information.
And the way that they're playing too, they're stacking a lot of people towards mid. It's completely barren. Wardell is there to just sort of have a peek, but mostly holding angles. It's a lot of space taken, but a lot of space given up too from Bloom in important parts of the map. Kaplan is going to run into Subroza, but can't do too much. The Phantom Headshot is there and enough, and finally we see the spike being planted on the B side because it was pretty much open for business. Insky and Roca, though, with his shirts, are able to get a couple of kills, puts it into a nice even 3 versus 3, but still the guns are not in their favor. Even the ultimate dedicated to try to scout a bit more intel off of the site as they go for the retake. Wardell catches Leak as he's rotating around. Gonna be a big ask for Bloom, and just as I keep talking, it drips out one by one. Eventually, TSM are able to get the round in pretty convincing fashion, but you'd expect that with Bloom ecoing.
There's always a few moments in those rounds where you start to ask questions of if it could slip away, but TSM not only take the round, but again, there's a couple now that have been relatively clean. You can see the money starting to build up. Wardell, Cutler, and Drone, all with enough to comfortably buy in the next round, and even Hazed will be able to buy anyway. So this is where things start to get a bit worrying for Bloom. This is now final map of a best of 3, one that we didn't really expect to get to. Starting to put a bit more pressure over onto this B site, but I'm going to see the Hunter's Fury expended. It doesn't really catch anyone. Because of that,
Doesn't
bit
catch
of a wasted ultimate. And in the
Bit of an
meantime, there's
awkward way
actually
for
been
Bloom
a
to
lot
deal
of
with the pressure.
mid-presence. Oh, Tripwire just around this corner. It seems like Subroza is almost ready to break in, push in. They're going to go running around the corner. He takes a lot of damage on his way through. Down to just 10 HP. sSef will eventually put him down. It's a bit of a whiff, though, from him in the end, and not much support from the remaining members of his team. Insky eventually combines with Kaplan, who gets 2 more. And while maybe there was a reason we were seeing much more heavy dedication to this A site, the B site still seems pretty strong. Hazed just has a few, but not this time.
B push is just always going to be a bit of a gauntlet, certainly when Bloom are there to hold it off. His patient rotations, the way that they augmented each other was great, and TSM struggled to break on through, and much like that round, a deadlock has not been broken. Both teams on 5-all. Very similar to how things went on Haven. Split was a little bit more like a few rounds in a row were built up by each of the teams, and then TSM started to build a bit more of a lead, but yet again, both teams traded sides, and when you put TSM into this situation where it constantly feels that they have to force, not only with economy, but with the way that they're playing, that they have to clutch out, they need to play exceptionally well and pull something out of the bottle, that's where they start to make a few mistakes that Bloom start to punish.
Early default round. Could take a fair bit of space. Roca just wide peeks in. In fact, he's going to find Drone as well. These are the sort of plays we've been waiting to see from him. Leak also spots. Running towards that short B position. He's not really willing to take the aggressive peek anymore. And, well, eventually, Leak will be forced to shoot that cam. But I don't think he really minded the information going the other way. I think they knew it anyway.
Oh, he's had a clever play. He ran away while being tagged. Sort of going, I'm going to run away from this position. Removed the tag and is now back to where he was. So this is a nice little bait. Subroza's not going to fall for it, though. The intel they have is that the jet was there, but she ran away. She's going to be right there facing him. Misses the shot, though, and Subroza's going to be able to punish that. Going to try and take a little bit more space. Of course, using the ultimate, he is going to be pulled back a little bit. Going to try to scout some intel, but can't get too much more without the Omen putting him to bed. But Kaplan on the B side, though, is holding it off and gets a nice double kill with the operator. Isn't quite sure what else is going on, but Roca's going to clean up house. Brilliant play from Subroza, from Bloom, sorry. The team just sort of seemed to react well to what TSM was trying to do and had nice control. And going into the last round of this half, the money is okay for TSM. Certainly not ideal. Not going to be seeing any operators in the hand of Wardell. In fact, it's just going to be a sheriff, but that's the best that they can muster up.
Yeah, I think it was so important to note as well that all that play from Subroza was just a fake. Like the whole idea was to try and pull the defense towards that A site, and he did do a pretty good job. There was only one man defending. Unfortunately, Kaplan just happened to dome both players as they walk in with their operator, so all too easy. It's going to be the retreat all the way back. A lot of information gathered by drone. The team, again, just almost sitting in middle, and that early aggression that we saw from Bloom has pretty much diminished. Like, you might see a few peaks over on A from Roca, but ultimately they were losing that battle in mid, so have fallen back into what I would consider more of a standard hold. The operator all the way back towards the spawn. It is worth mentioning that there is two. They've gone for that double op setup, and speaking to Sliggy previously from Fish, he said that he's happy to even run 3, so who knows where this could go in the future.
Is going to be used, and he's pushing out aggressively, but Subroza is still able to get the picks. Of course, he is close range, you can still see. He had full sight. Wardell getting in behind Roca, doesn't get the frag, but it wasn't anything personal, kid. Subroza is going to take a lot of this space too. He's going to be running into Kaplan and is able to get the frag right where TSM needed to bring something explosive onto the site. They're able to do that. And sSef has had a pretty strong game, but in a 1 versus 5 in the last round with an operator where he's been spotted and the paranoia is going to come out too and get peeked. I'd say it's likely that he's able to pull this one, and he doesn't. Subroza gets his 4th in halftime, 6-all.
Yeah, a decent scoreline in the end. It being evened up, and we're seeing a lot of the faces we'd like to see. It was a slow start from Roca, but he does end up at the top of the board. I think this was also much more of a showing of what I like to see from Subroza on this Phoenix, or at least the idea I have in my head, because individually we know how good this guy is, but with the agent, it also gives him the opportunity to be a little bit more flashy, excuse the pun. I really think he could do a hell of a lot of damage. And while even just selling that fake in a couple of rounds ago, it may not have worked, but he did a very good job at least pulling the defense. Now we go into that defensive side for TSM, and once more, we have this wonderful shorty, a gunner I love to see.
And it went really well for Wardell on split. Getting a couple of kills before he was punished. And he banked on the B side being pushed, which is very much the case. Kaplan is even going to use the drone. The Omen's just going to run away rather sheepishly. Forces out a few of those bullets as well. Wardell's going to try and peek to it, gets the dink onto leak. Has to reload and is going to dash out before he's punished even more, but insky is still able to get the frag. Shot in the back. Who's to blame? Roca's going to try and push through, but Cutler's anchoring onto this site. Luckily, he's still able to get the frag, and sSef holding mid too. Can't do too much as drone. He's going to win that engager. A nice neat 2 versus 2, but the attackers are forced all the way back into Boathouse, and TSM are coming calling.
And Boathouse is a fairly scary place to be when there's shot darts on the other side. They may not even need them, though. There's already... Oh, there's the first. Doesn't connect. The second one actually bounces back, and well, the overhealed Roca has a good chance, but he doesn't hit a single shot. A great retake in the 2 versus 3 from Drone and Subroza. It will be them now taking the lead. Something else I think we really do need to mention is the fact that, unfortunately, although this is the Faze Clan Invitational, they have lost their first series 2-0.
Well, F to Faze Clan, I suppose. They do have another opportunity. It's a double elimination bracket in all of the groups. So they will have a chance to come back in each of the 4 groups. Only 2 teams will qualify in each, meaning that there'll be 8 for the playoffs tomorrow, which should be exciting. And it would be super interesting to see Bloom be there.
Well, that's Faze 100 Thieves
and then
as
the game
well.
following.
That elimination
that's an exciting match. You could probably catch that over at twitch.tv/FazeClan.
Well, here we go.
Yeah, let you know.
Just looking to try and shut down this push, but Leak has not only managed to get a kill, but he has retrieved himself a rifle. The bigger issue, though, is the man that went down was actually holding the spike. So they haven't actually managed to get the plant, but they're doing it once again. We talk about their force buys. We talk about their second round victories. And this is something that's been so scary from the side of Bloom. It's just their ability to steal these rounds away. And it's left all onto Hazed. He doesn't even have the range advantage anymore, as there's a Phantom on the other side. And he is slowly being chipped away. The Phantom about to become the Ghost as they peek him at the same time. 7-7. Bloom once again win another force buy round, and hey, that's been one of the most impressive things I think about this team is even with weaker weaponry, even with vulnerabilities, they can still come up trumps at any moment.
And it wasn't like they isolated some engagements versus TSM. No, all of TSM were pretty much in and around the A site. So they went, you know, full face toe-to-toe against them and still ended up winning. It's pretty crazy what Bloom have been allowed to do, and I say that because, you know, TSM have to have a bit more control and dictate some of these more engagements when you have the economy advantage, because if you don't have that, then you're just letting these guys run riot. Wardell's positioning is going to be given up by the recon bolt. He's going to pulse all the way, and he's going to back off to the B site, but he's slowly going to sheepishly make his way back. Bloom haven't dedicated to anything just yet. Bit of a ruckus on mid at least, and Hazed is there to try and stop it with a few smokes, but ultimately can be caught out as the economy of TSM isn't looking too sharp. Goes into the smoke as the drone goes on by, so they aren't expecting him to be here, so could very easily catch them out.
Oh, well, you're spot on. Angle not checked, and actually a second for Hazed. Talked about these rounds that he just seems to pull out of nowhere. This would be one hell of a one. A classic double already from the veteran. Even denied the extra space. This now becomes a little bit awkward for the opponents. He's going to switch sides once again. Actually, he's got his third kill. This is starting to get a little bit ridiculous, right? This is 3 kills with a classic. Are they going to check the angle this time? Thankfully, Leaks is there to put him down, but Subroza now comes up as well. It's left onto sSef. He's been very good so far. The spike should be retrievable, but he looks away at the worst moment. That is as thrifty a buy as it gets. It is 3 kills from a classic of Hazed. And, well, he's definitely bringing the form we saw in the last map. Now puts himself up to 3rd on the board. And that is a round that, well, I don't think many players could recreate with the amount of value he just contributed with nothing invested.
I do wonder what's under that cowl for Omen. And I've now realized it's this big 5 head, because that was some pretty clever plays that came out of him. It was just as the drone goes through the smoke, he steps into it, so they're not expecting him on that corner. You saw Kaplan just walk forward, ran into his death unknowingly because it was super smart. And then the tricks of the shrouded steps, hopping from side to side, making it really difficult to guess where he is. There's eventually caught on, but the damage was already done. But the aggressive play now, Leak is going to try and hop onto the site. Can't spot really anywhere. His positioning is giving up with a recon bolt, and drone through the fire and the flames is still able to get those frags. Wardell goes on a nice flank, and just within an instant, TSM can hold off this attack, and now that lead is starting to build a little bit more, certainly from what we've seen on Ascent, where it's been very tradey either side.
Yeah, it's not even like that was an eco round either. Like, that was pretty much everything invested for the side of Bloom. It almost just looked that way because of how clean it was. I also think that the call there from TSM was spot on. They had, I think, 2 players just waiting at the back of the A site, just ready for that push to come in. So very well done by them, a good gamble. And I think one that was almost needed. They were having some early struggles on that A site, so I think it was a fairly easy prediction for them.
Wardell's trying to do quite a lot again. Could have got quite a few frags. He had the right idea, but just a couple of centimeters off getting those frags. And a lot of pressure has been put into Cubby. It's going to be an A execute looking for Bloom. We haven't seen many like baits, but insky's able to get that Sheriff in. This has been happening quite a lot for both sides now. These Shikos have been super exceptional. But Drone is able to stop leaking their tracks. The spike is looking to get planted, and a lot of space has been taken by Bloom. The TSM aren't rotating around. They're not going to try and do some cheeky plays. They're just trying to stick together because they know how easily Bloom can start to pick them apart one by one.
Well, classic saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again. The fast A play this time looking a lot better for the side of Bloom, but the weaponry advantage still heavily in the favor of TSM. Dark cover expended by Hazed. He looks to try and push through, hoping to find some space, but it's Kaplan and Roca again to combine. Cutler has managed to double back in, but Roca escapes. He's just trying to buy time. He's trying to burn down that clock as much as possible. The shot from this team, and he gets both. That is ridiculous from Roca. He brings them through an 8th round, and it's off the back of that wonderful pistol.
And it's a shame as well because Cutler was clutching right there. Getting a triple kill, just easing up the site. Roca's job was pretty much already done by that point because he had wasted so much time, as well as the rest of Bloom. But that is just... If you didn't know about this team up until now, you should certainly pay attention to Bloom. They're going toe-to-toe with TSM. The third map, this close. Very easily we could see Bloom taking a win up against TSM, which would shock the nation as it should.
These are some risky peaks as well. I think even Wardell might be looking at that one going, really? You're facing that again? Almost a level of disrespect. You see Kaplan, this time, checking every angle. Right. Be utilizing the shock darks to try and clear out some of those closer positions. Doesn't really land, so no real issues just yet. Wardell repositioning into the garden. A little bit more of a mellow scenario than that battle for mid. And we're seeing the same from TSM now. Some initial challenges, but ultimately allowing our opposition to take control of mid. It's going to be difficult to win this battle, though. He's got the ability to not only have the fight, but also get away towards the window if needed.
And I think Bloom have just got wise to it. They have so much utility that they can throw out here. Paranoia, they could just peek it like that. Roca just blind. All of that utility that Bloom could use, and they just walk into it. That's a bit weird. Now Leak is onto the site. He's taking quite a bit of space and knows that there is somebody behind. That's where the Omen is going to be. So need to be careful of where Hazed is holding. The spike is going to get planted, and they're surrounded by a lot of people to the point that Hunter's Fury is actually going to scare off quite a lot of people. Hovers into the air to see if he can catch somebody, and he does, but no lethal damage there. Can just catch out some intel. The Alfred is going to do that on the defense, and Hunter's Fury is going to be used on their side too. Kaplan is stuck between a rock and a hard place, but is still able to get out. Hazed is getting a couple of kills. insky does trade to put that to bed. Now it's these 3 surviving members of TSM. Wardell gets the shot onto Sev, and insky holding on for dear life as to check every single angle at the same time. Gets a couple, but Drone is the last alive. Plenty of time to get that defuse in. 10-8 to TSM.
That was way too close. It really looked like even in that 3v1, anything was possible, and it seems like at any moment, any member in this server really can step up. Again, we see Hazed with a double, but it's that penultimate kill that comes from Wardell that was so important. There was a wraparound coming back through the window behind them, and he was just watching it like a hawk, made sure that his team kept the advantage going into that final stages of the retake. And unfortunately, again, this seems to be the burden for Bloom, is they're not streaking any rounds together. I suppose that's a burden for both teams. We haven't had more than 2 rounds in a row, which is kind of crazy. But the other thing as well is for the attacking side at the moment, they're just constantly having to go for these eco buys. Now, of course, they have won a couple of them, which, you know, that speaks for itself. I just don't know how often they're going to be able to get away with this.
Roca's still able to get that pick up to Wardell. TSM are like, not again, not again, as he gets a second. What are they doing with his sheriffs? Have they got rocket launchers attached to them? Subroza's able to get a couple of kills, but Kaplan with the shock bolt, shock dart is able to get a couple of fractures. And they've got off angle, and there's people in their cameras, there's people looking, and Kaplan just plays them up. How are Bloom getting these 50 rounds? It's like 1 AM here, and I'm screaming like an idiot because Bloom should not be allowed to do this.
I honestly hope at this point that our producer isn't just looking at my cam, because I'm so shocked by that round. The timing was absolutely perfect, but that was unbelievable. There's so many plays being made. Like Roca with that sheriff, honestly, like I kind of want him to play it all the time. Like, it doesn't make any sense how good he is with it. But then Kaplan just, I think he realized, okay, one of these players is in the drone. If I get this kill, we win. That's pretty much it. And he did. He beats the rifle with the ghost. And now it's TSM on the back foot. Wardell, rather than having a trusty operator, the Blade Storm instead, and be just as effective.
I think he's waiting for like the Blade Storm hop up. It's interesting that he's looking up there, so I think he's expecting like a hop up with a Blade Storm, because Blade Storm is accurate in the air, right? So you could just hop up, get a nice cheeky kill. But he's keeping an eye, making sure the Cutler doesn't. Cutler. He's not Wardell, sorry. Leak catches off Hazed, is trying to make a play. Didn't mean to interrupt you before, but it's just like interesting to see that Bloom is watching for those particular plays. I don't think I've seen anybody ever do that, but it seems that Bloom are thinking of everything right now. And TSM are backed into a corner when it comes to their economy, and the fact that now Wardell has his ultimate out. They're really being deliberate with everything that they're doing. And this might catch up TSM a bit more.
Not going to push into it, though. Wardell is the only defender. He's got that ult popped. To get more than one's going to be tough, and well, that's all he achieves. But Subroza has managed one elsewhere with the Sheriff. Now, we've seen both teams win with these thrifty buys. Leak misses his shot, but he can escape, and now they have all the information of where these remainder players are. It's good for him especially, because he knows no one is coming in from behind. They just have to keep aware of the market. Could be Subroza hopping the run it back to get through, but it's an easy kill. It gives him some information at least, but they've used a lot into this round. That's multiple ultimates. They need to take this through as a victory. Cutler gets one, but now we can see the escape available. Nice shot from Drone, but he has to move fast, and he doesn't have much HP to play with. It's the Empress on the other side. The chances of victory slim, and now the time ticks away. Roca's there to close it.
They did the damage. Can they survive? No, just on the edge. And I think that's important because, like, economy isn't ideal for either of these teams. Look, you can see it's a full buy from TSM because they did save that round, but the money is still dicey, to say the least, for Bloom, so even a death like that for Roca can be relatively costly. Still able to sort of bring out the big guns as needed. It might just be sSef going without, but it also could be the UI just taking a little while to update. We don't know quite yet, but the point is that TSM are now able to full buy. They have a neural theft if they can get that frag. It's a bit awkward for Bloom. If they lose this round, they'll have to eco, but to be honest, their ecos have looked stronger than their full buys in some cases.
That shot dart was dirty. About 87 damage. And leave a bit of a sting. I see a few attempted in return, but there isn't as much aggression as maybe Kaplan thinks.
I have the spike.
Seems like they're still a little bit patient of where they're going to go just so far.
And it's the fact that the spike was on B that I wanted to mention, but it is rotating around, so an A execute is looking likely for Bloom. They've got pretty well, but in some cases TSM have been able to put the pressure on and really boil Bloom as they're holding onto the site, that they make a lot of mistakes and get punished for it. But you could just see how much TSM is sort of expected in this play.
Get out of my way!
Wickable is going to be used. The ultimate Blade Storm dedicated. The Liz going to create a lot of space, but that's a good paranoia that goes across the site. He's able to get the first pick his Hazed onto Roca, so that means that he's not going to be able to get too much done. sSef has a nice little angle here. He's trying to spot Subroza, but he still loses that disengagement. Subroza, even there, finds a bit of an awkward fight. Went to Kaplan on the site. Luckily, his teammates there to help clear it up. It felt for me there, Tom, that TSM were just expecting that play. And when that happens, Bloom just can't deal with much. They're forced to eco. I think TSM should be twice as worried now.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment at this point. Are they actually going to fully invest into this one? Insky's gone all in, but I think they might just decide to maybe sell that one up. An impulse buy that thankfully can be forgiven. They can't really afford to go for this one. It would likely mean that they're playing for overtime. But I think they've made the same realization that, okay, they're starting to stack up on the other side of the map. The A site takes have been so successful, but this might be a problem. They're going to try and put the pressure onto Cutler. He does find one through. He's done a good job of at least slowing them down. Spike is going to get onto the site, but he now has all the information. There's no flankers. There's nobody creeping around the back. They're all within the site. And this should be a 12 for TSM. I don't see a way this time that they manage to turn this around. No Roca Sheriffs to be had. Leak. We'll at least get one with the Frenzy. Looking for more, but unfortunately there's nothing to be had. And in the back corner, Insky can't do anything either. So it is going to be map and series point. It has been a long, long road for TSM, Ryan. Do they close it here?
It's not over just yet. Bloom's economy was not good there. They were forced to save. Now it's their last-ditch effort. All of the guns coming out to play. Even an operator, if Insky wants to pick it up, could be there potentially. Or even Leak, actually, has even more money. And a few ultimates on either side. Hunter's Fury for both, and also from the Shadows for both teams too. So that intel is going to be integral for both sides to scout out exactly where these fights could be happening. Ultimate for Omen being used more as a tool to just teleport in literally where the enemies are and go, okay, they're over here. But this is a really early Hunter's Fury coming out of the defense. Doesn't quite catch an awful lot, and that's a bit of a big miss for Drone. Could have been used for the retake if it got to that. But that early pressure really didn't amount to a knot.
I do wonder if that was more just them utilizing that as information. Like, if they were pushing, like, if they were rushing, just to try and deny them that early positioning, and then you can set Subroza up just as almost more of a warning system with how they've been playing previously. If that is the case, if that's the plan, I don't really mind that at all. We're going to see one go back in response, but Wardell with the opener. Insky gonna fall. Hazed just caught another one. This is looking like maybe the beginning of the end. There needs to be a hero if Bloom are going to continue in this series. They've had a fantastic run, taken one of the best North American teams to the distance, but if they fall at the final hurdle, it may not matter, as they are getting slaughtered in the site. Roca can't even save them this time, and TSM, it's taken them a while, but eventually, Ryan, they do what was expected of them.